Hey, it's your boy Elder Ridge here, and you're watching Envy's channel.
What's up, guys? It's Envy. We're back with another episode of Sit Down with Envy. Now, today I have GoGuru Gaming Casual. Now,
Hello.
we'll get straight into it, right? Tell us a bit about yourself.
Bit about myself. Okay. Well, you're looking very handsome, Envy, if you don't mind me saying.
Ah, thanks, mate.
Thank you for having me.
You could be worse, right?
Oh, I don't have a vest. You wore a vest.
Yeah.
You knew fully well I didn't have one. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, my real name's Jonah, as you know. People watching might not. I'm otherwise known as Casual, Always Casual, or our new team name GNC. So now GNC Casual. I've been playing League since about the end of season 4. I was a Garen mid one trick, and just slowly one tricked my way in different roles with no purpose whatsoever until I found myself here. In my real life, I'm a school counselor. I work at a secondary college, and I'm a qualified youth worker, still studying. I live with my girlfriend, my partner, and yeah, that's all the interesting things to know. As we get into it, I'm sure more will come up. So.
I mean, it's pretty interesting that you say you're a counselor, right? Because your mid laner
Yeah.
probably needs a bit of counseling. Sorry, Flame, but I have to go there.
I think the skills I bring to my day job definitely get translated to being the captain of my team. So in communicating with everyone and sort of balancing, I think it's like when you first make a team, you're all completely different people who probably think about the game in 5 different ways.
Yeah.
And so there's definitely a need for someone who can communicate well to bring everyone on track and to basically say, you need to shut up. You need to start talking more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And fix everyone's role. So I've definitely been grateful I've been able to do that. But no, my team's amazing. I think we mesh really, really well. Yeah, I'm very grateful.
Yeah, because you do, like, because I've been on many teams, right?
Yeah.
When you join a team, it's kind of like who's top dog.
Yeah.
It's like, so to speak, because there's always a top dog in the team. Like, you could tell me, that this team doesn't have a top dog, but they do, right?
Yeah.
It's just they hide behind, we're all 5 equals. Everyone's not equal, right?
Yeah.
Someone's always the best player on the team, which means
Yep.
they're, like, maybe they're not top dog. You, huh? Okay. That's, okay.
I'll get to your opinions about my gameplay later. No, I agree with what you mean, and I think we'll get into it later as well. But as far as what my team is now to compare to what it was definitely a battle for top dog and a battle for whose opinion matters more. So not a lot of listening, and there's that concept of listening to hear and then listening to just talk after someone's finished talking, and that second one, the former, was definitely what was happening in the beginning of the team and what's going on. So it's hard. I like to think that we've managed it now and we've got a pretty good power structure, but as things change, people evolve, we play in different tournaments, it's going to move around, right? So, yeah.
So we'll move into the first area I kind of want to touch on, right? Because everyone has their own story of how they got into the scene.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to hear a bit about yours. How'd you get involved in low elo competitive?
Low elo? No.
We are low elo. I mean, you are low elo, but
you've just called out me and everyone else. No. So, yeah, I think. Look, my whole adolescence, my communities were online. Without a doubt, like 95% of my social interaction was online on the internet. And it came with lots of different ways. Before I sort of got into MOBAs and MMOs and those high octane multiplayer, that's what it's about, sort of games. It was a lot more doing like role playing sort of stuff. So it's a bit cringe now when I think about it. Back when I was sort of like 12, 13, like Habbo Hotel, shit like that.
Yeah.
Do you remember those? The chat rooms and things? Yeah. So I was all over that. And I think I was forced into a position where if I needed to get that survival social interaction that we all need, it had to come from online. And it's weird because when you're a young kid and you go into a place like the internet, which fucking is just so much shit that a person at that age shouldn't be seeing. It definitely spun around my development a little bit weird, and I got very addicted to being online for the sake of being online.
Yeah.
And diving into all these different communities just to pretend to be someone I wasn't, to get involved and stuff like that. And so it actually came from a group of friends I made in my real life at school, who said I looked like Bjergsen, I looked like Soren. I don't know if they would agree with that now, but that every time I'd walk past them in the locker rooms, they'd point at me and go, Bjergsen, and all this crap. I was like, what the fuck are you on about?
So your play doesn't reflect that.
No, well, you can imagine why I started playing mid. When I first started, I was like, well, I've got to follow this guy. Like, this is my route. I can't do anything else. But no, I got into the game with them and just played and loved it, I think. I always loved League. I don't know what it was. I think I really fell in love with the media around it. So watching streamers, and I still feel like now that League definitely has the best content creation out of a lot of games. I'm probably biased, but I absolutely love the whole thing, and that instantly became my dream to be a streamer. And the first thing you think about when you become a streamer and what people tell you is that you've got to be good at the game, because otherwise people aren't going to watch your shit gameplay. Obviously you could disagree with that because people watch you and your gameplay is
okay, calm down. People watch me because they're waiting for me to fuck up, and then out comes the clips.
It's content either way, right? A Pentacles are content, and 0-10 in lane is still content. But no, I found Clash was when I was like, okay, I need to start playing with friends. I'd had a few people who I joined with and stuff like that, but never a core group that I even thought about being in my own team. Clash came around, and so you sort of just go through solo queue, you ask people, that sort of thing. And a jungler that we used to have called Alex, and it's a shout out to him if he ever gets to watch this. Me and him found Adam, Flame. And the three of us basically decided, let's get into it. Let's see what there is. Adam knew a lot more, as you probably know. He knew a lot more about
he was around,
and how to get into the tournaments. Me and Alex had no fucking clue. So he was like our guide. Basically, he was our Gandalf to our little hobbits. And he showed us around. We got involved. And then it was just a matter of trying to find the right core group. And as you mentioned as well, finding that top dog, finding that power imbalance and that balance and straightening it out. And we had lots of people come in and throughout the team. But even when we were playing like shit, and even when we just had no identity as a team at all, stop making that.
Playing like shit, got him.
And even that's like an underestimate. But when we just didn't know what we were doing, but we were just there for it, it felt way different. I remember saying, I think I was talking to Adam after our first Clash game and our first sort of Iron to Gold or whatever it was. I was shocked at how different you played the game. Just how you have to think about it completely differently than what I was. I was I couldn't believe it. I felt like I was playing a different game, and so it scared me shitless because I was like, I don't think I'm good enough to achieve anything in this sort of way. How do I make a team? How do I stick with that team?
And how do you
all
match
that
up,
sort of crap? Yeah, it felt like way too much work. So because it felt like too much work, we came from a different route. We came from a route of friendship, and it sounds a bit cringe, but what I mean by that is we needed to find the power of friendship, Care Bears, out of our hearts. We wanted to first get to know each other and like each other before we wanted to play seriously. And so finding a team became less about what sort of play do we need? Do we need a carry mid? Do we need a power farm objective jungler? That sort of, and it was more about, we need someone who we can laugh with. We need someone who we can chill with and play other games. And then the skill comes after. And so, that's the way around.
It's a lot easier to have the serious conversation with someone, right? If you're good friends with them.
I think people just respect their friends. I will respect what a lot of people tell me, especially when it comes to negative feedback. I'm one of those people where in VOD reviews or whatever else, if I did something stupid, call me stupid and tell me why. Don't be like, oh, you could have done this a little bit better, because I learned nothing from that. And so for me, it became about finding people who think similarly in that way. But I like to think we're there. But it'll it'll be what it'll be, what the team looks like in the next couple of months. But I'm just happy we got this far. I think the journey's been really, really good, and we're definitely going to hang around in the competitive scene. It's not like we've tried it and then we want to sort of stick our feet out of the pool. We're definitely in to start swimming laps. So
Start swimming laps, right?
Start swimming those laps. So I've been watching the Olympics. I don't know why that analogy
I
came to my head.
don't know why you came up with swimming, right? It'd be better as like 100-meter sprint or something, right?
This is why you're the professional streamer and I'm not.
I know, right? Well, I mean, you kind of touched on a player that we could probably talk about now, right?
Yeah.
Our good friend Flame.
Yes, sir.
So you just met him through like solo queue?
Look, I'd actually have to think. I don't fully remember the scenario. All I remember is that it started with me and Alex. And it must have been through solo queue. I don't remember meeting him in solo queue, so it could have been someone else. But there was this big server that was a bit like the regular BSV server, but it was for what were they called?
Some sort.
The Ocelots. Do you remember this?
Yeah. We don't have fond memories of Ocelots.
So I feel like my brain's done that thing where it scarred that traumatic period of my life, and now I'm struggling to picture things. No, but this Ocelot server, me and Alex joined in as free agents and said we're looking for a team, and I think Adam was in that server for whatever reason. I don't know how he'd fallen into there.
He's probably looking for another team.
We can get into the backstory behind that maybe if you'd like. No. So we found him and we became a 3, and then we used that server to basically fill ADC and support until we found who we found in Lucky and
the carries of the team.
Yeah, that's right. The people dragging us by our brain dead heels.
Right.
Yeah, I think out of the OGs in the group, because I think a team, when it evolves, there's definitely those people who have hung around the most, like sort of the veterans, that sort of thing. It is me and Adam. And so he definitely has a special place in the team for me.
On the bench.
I think he's contributed. What was that?
On the bench.
Well, bench is still a part of the team. No, he's built it as much as I have. And so and look, without Adam, I probably wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't be on this show. So I do attribute a bit to that guy for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can kind of go into. So the original name of the team was Lefish.
Yep.
Which is pretty horrible of a name.
Well, look, no one will find this funny because it was an inside joke, and I don't even remember why we found it funny. But Alex, our old jungler, came from Russia. He lived in New Zealand but was Russian, and he was a Fizz player before we basically pushed him into playing jungle. And for some reason, when he said Fizz, it sounded like fish. And he would say le fish. Like, we'd be like, what do you want to pick? And he'd be like, le fish. And for some reason, we found that fucking hilarious. And saying that now makes me want to cut my eyeballs. But here we are. And so that was the original name. And this was, mind you, without an org as well. So we had to think of something. I'm so bad at coming up with names. I can't do it. I don't know about you. I really struggle to find something that's not generic and shit, but also that's unique but not cringe. And so it's a really hard thing to balance. So I'm grateful that we've found the org who can sort of put us on the right track, maybe. Because without them, we're the fish. So.
My original name was Envy and the Apes.
Oh.
Right.
Okay. Good.
So that was like my team's name. It's not bad. It's kind of cringe. Because a lot of people
how long ago was that?
Year and a half, 2.
So this was your first team that you played with?
It's the team that I made the name for.
Okay.
I've been around for like 4 years.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I was like, Aaron, Interesting. I love how you've put your name at the start of that.
Oh, of course I
I
did.
love.
And people would argue I was the worst player on the team,
Oh
but it
god.
was funny.
Were you still playing mid?
Yeah, at the start.
Yeah. Okay. Were you always a mid laner? I don't know
Uh,
that.
I originally was playing jungle, right? So my name
I didn't.
was, I had a name called King of the Jungle.
Okay.
Um,
Hype.
I also had Woodcut Beast. I went
Mhm.
through a lot of shit names. I
Yeah, I
had,
can tell.
I think it was like Easy Does It at one
Oh
point.
god.
It was a
Oh
lot of
Jesus.
cringe.
Oh Jesus.
Um, and then I kind of just settled on I'm the one to envy, which was my original name.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's evolved into Envious of Me because someone, when I changed my name to Envy the Galio Man,
Okay.
stole my name on League. Now,
Who does that?
bro, I know who it was. Goddamn Veggie.
Are you dropping bombs on this
Ah,
episode
everyone
or?
knew who it was. Right? It was kind of funny, but I just changed it to Envious of Me, and I kind of just like it.
I like your name. I've always said I'm a fan of it. Do you know why like envy, like, as because obviously the word means to,
Yeah.
to be jealous of, to that. Was it always just because people would be like jealous of your mechanics? Was that was that the route you were going?
I
That's how I've imagined it, but
So, like my like backstory, when I think it was like 11 or 12, me and my
yeah.
brother were playing like RuneScape,
Yeah.
but it wasn't RuneScape. It was like a RuneScape private server, which is like so much more easier. The community is a lot more like net tight.
Okay,
It's a
right,
lot
right.
easier to like skill and whatnot.
Yeah.
And he stole the name from our cousin, right? I'm the one to envy.
Right, yeah.
And then I saw it and I was like, yo, I kind of like that. And I was like 12, and I ended up just taking his name, yeah.
Take that real quick.
And so I've kind of just had that or a adaptation of it since then.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I can't judge because I was at the point when I was trying to figure out because like early on in my league career, I never really picked a role. I picked a champion and I would
Yeah.
just play that champion in the role that was meta. So like if I chose to one trick Vladimir, which I did from like season 7 to 8, I think, because I'm pretty sure he was broken at that point. He was mainly played mid and not really top. And so I would just spam mid, but knew nothing about mid lane. And I would do the same thing if I decided to one trick Fiora, and then I would just play in the top lane, or one trick Jin, which I'm pretty sure Jin still is my highest mastery on my main top lane account, which is weird as fuck. But then I'd just play ADC. And so when I would do that, I'd get the name change because I just loved wasting money at that period in my life.
It was great.
And I would look up, I would Google like Jin one trick mains, and then I would go down like a stat graph list for people who are not known, so people don't call me out for stealing someone's name. So cringe. The cringiest thing you could ever do.
Yeah.
But here we are, and so yeah.
I mean,
I'm glad I'm past that.
everyone's got a backstory, right?
That's my superhero backstory.
You know, I'm just saying, being called good vibrations is pretty bad. I'm gonna keep harping on Adam because it's funny, but
well,
like,
we've been trying to convince him to just stay with Flame so you can put GNC at the front of it. Like we've got GNC Lucky, we've got I was always casual, now I'm GNC casual.
yeah,
GNC Wildlife. Just go for Flame, but this man he just knows something we don't.
I mean, he
One
changed
for
it
all,
to
so.
one for all, right?
Yeah, I thought it was after the game mode. I was like, I didn't think it was that good, but he he loved it. So.
He must. Well, because I remember this is going back like 6 months. I knew who it was because you know our stories are like intertwined.
Yeah,
like,
they are
for
yes.
ages, and
yeah.
so I'd have people like, "Who the fuck is that guy?" And I was like, "Oh, it's just Flame," and then like, "Oh, him," and then they just start laughing.
Yeah, he's known. He's known. I mean, you guys really came up. If you think about a superhero origin backstory, yours is
I'm the
far
villain.
better than mine. And you two even became nemesises at one point.
Nemesis is a strong word because he didn't win anything, right? Like, it's not.
It is on this show.
It's not a rivalry if you don't win.
Well, I would say I would love to see you guys battle it out in the mid lane if you ever get to join a team again.
Okay, calm
Get in
down.
the circuit.
We're getting there, right?
Yeah, I hope so. I think that'd be fun.
I might be division higher than you because my elo is so good now.
Yes, yes, sir.
But I mean, we could touch on our history if you don't mind, right?
Yeah, of course.
I don't know how much you know of it, but basically,
Like a little bit.
we both trialed for WKW.
Yep.
So that was like we were competing for the mid lane spot.
Yep.
Now I have an ego. Everyone knows I have an ego.
Well, I mean, look what's behind you.
Okay, it's a lie.
I'm so
right?
humble. You're like a mafia boss where they've got that big oil painting of themselves smoking a cigarette, and they have this naked woman just around them, and they're just. I'm so humble. So humble.
Yeah, so we both trialed for the same team. Now I thought at the time I was better than him, and I still think that now. He ended up getting the spot over me. Right, so I kind of made it like my goal to put him down in lane whenever I could, just to prove a point, because it's part of what can like drive a person.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
And so moving on from then, he was released from that team, and we both found our way onto Era, right, another org, and
Yeah,
we were,
right,
we
yeah.
were on sister teams.
Okay.
Right. He was on the Iron to Gold team, and mine was an Iron to Plat team, even though we only had one Plat player, and the rest of the players were like gold and
disqualified from Iron to Gold because of that one guy.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's clips of me. I'm like, because we'd scrim each other quite a lot, because it's
Sister teams. Yeah.
I was drinking pretty much every single scrim set just because I was like, it's fucking Flame, right? He's not worth me being sober. I went 0-6 in lane in one of the games, and he still couldn't close the game out. So I was just fucking laughing. I Corky Valkyrie the wrong way, and it's like I'm sorry. I think I also played Rumble mid first time.
I've played. I think you've scrimmed with us before.
Yeah.
You do love a drink in a scrim. I will say that much. There are some we've had some interesting ganks from Sir Envious of Me, but I think as far as Adam goes, I think he probably cops a lot more than he deserves, because I think there are a lot of players who, if they got not so much treated the same, but thrown the same criticism as he has, would just give up and crawl into a corner and just be like, well, I'm just gonna do something else now. And so if I look to Flame for anything, it's that commitment. And I think even as a team now, I was actually talking to some of the TBH boys last night. We played Clash last night, and we obviously took a break once the circuit ended. It was a long process. We felt like we'd actually got some pretty decent success given our circumstances in a lot of different ways, and so we wanted to give ourselves a little holiday. But even Clash night last night, what was that? Clash last night, Jesus. You could tell that it'd just been a while since we'd played together, and I think it's hard when you stop playing competitively for a bit. You lose that drive, or like, because everyone, something different drives everyone, right? We've talked about even privately what drives you in a lot of ways, and even myself. You can lose that, and when you lose that, you see the game differently, and so it's less about us building our macro and our micro play to the same level, but it's getting that same perspective about how we view the game. And I feel like Adam or Flame has a good perspective, even though he loses it sometimes, like we all do. The way he views the game, I often look to. But I think we all played differently back then, right? I think, it would be an interesting matchup is what I'm saying. I think if we get anything out of this, I want to see Envy and Adam battle it out. I think that'll be good.
Yeah, because, you're right. Everything drives someone. My big issue was complacency. When you're at the top of the mountain, there's no one to look up at, right? You're the one at the top, so there's no one else for you to beat. you just have to stay at the top, which is a lot harder to do.
Yep.
And so I got hit with that when I had my super team.
Yeah.
It was like we were pretty much untouchable in Iron to Gold.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't close.
We may have dropped like a game or two here or there, but it was, it was pure like breeze. We could start off-rolling games, which I remember one week I ended up playing jungle. Now this is when I wasn't playing jungle at all. I was like, fuck it, I'll play jungle, right?
Yeah.
Because it was into a team that we had like defeated maybe like 4 times in the last like 6 weeks. Because it was it was like the best of one style bracket.
Yeah.
And we matched into them again, and we were like, fuck it, who cares? We're at the top of the ladder in terms of like points. So if we lose, we can afford to fuck around.
Yeah.
And then you get to the top, and you there's nothing else driving you.
I'd ask with that though, do you not see an element? And I'm just thinking about the teams you may have versed. It's a hard balance because at the same point, if you're easily winning things and you're beating people, you can actually fall into a space or like sort of like a mindset where you start disrespecting the people you're versing because you don't see them as opponents, really.
Yeah.
You start just like, it's just you guys against yourselves. The only way you lose is if you guys misplay rather than them beat you. That was never a concept. How do you find the balance between BMing to the point where it is just disrespectful to these teams who are trying to build themselves up versus you guys just wanting to have fun?
It's hard, right? Because there's heaps and heaps of instances where I personally have done it to people, right?
Yeah.
I've done it to Flame in scrims and whatnot, right? But I've also, during the the op.gg checks before the game and whatnot, if I'm into like a silver 2 mid laner, I'll be like, give me counter pick, and then I might end up playing LeBlanc.
Yeah.
Right? Which is not an MV champion. Like, I might... Obviously, Zeb would be like...
Because it's hard to play.
Okay, calm down. Right? I used to play it all the time, I'll have you know.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Where you...
So it's like, it's tricky. I think we've fallen into the habit of that. I think... look, we haven't been... Talking about my team, haven't been around enough to really compare ourselves, I think, realistically to other teams. And so I think when we came into BSV and there was that community that was very much about comparison, I think a lot of these teams knew each other, had been around, their faces, their names, the way they played was really similar. And so we came in externally. Everyone besides Flame were like, it's like Conor McGregor. It's like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, like they have no, who are you? And so when it comes to then comparing those teams, obviously we're going to be lower because people don't actually, and so why would you rate us high when you actually don't know who you are? And so when it comes to a more accurate comparison, I feel it's hard to distinguish a team when they're so high on the top and it's not close, because then how good are you? Because you could play like complete shit and still beat a low-ranked team. Yeah. And so then you can't think about win-loss anymore. That means like figuratively nothing. So yeah, it's hard. I'm grateful that in BSV I felt like it was really evenly matched. I think I don't know about the other circuits. I wasn't really watching Alpha or whatever their names were, Alpha, Gamma, or whatever. I wasn't watching them, but I felt Echo for the most part was pretty even, I think. I don't know. What do you think?
There's a couple issues, right? Because the playoffs
besides
like the whole Kraken Sapphire issue.
Yeah. Besides that,
I'm on record saying Kraken Sapphire beat Alpha.
Yeah.
Obviously excluding the Smurf they had, I think their original mid laner they still beat Alpha, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Because that's just that was my opinion.
Yeah.
But I always felt the team coming out of the top side of the bracket, because of the way the brackets ended up forming, was going to win, right?
Yeah.
I gave the bottom half no chance.
Yeah.
And like, even if you guys made it to the finals, I don't know how much you get done into them, just because stylistically they match up.
It's interesting, right? And we've had these talks as a team as well, sort of that what could have been, what would have been. I think I would love to scrim Alpha and TBH World because I actually do see them as really even opponents, and I think even though sometimes the score lines don't represent that, we look back at those games and we look at like the macro and compare what each team is sort of thinking around their decisions. What lanes do they want to play behind? We're really similar. I think it's fair to say for Alpha, at least from my perspective, their bot lane's probably their strongest. Their strongest
lane,
whatever you'd call it, lane, side role, whatever. And for us, on a good day, our bot lane, and I'm happy to put this on record, smashes any bot lane in the Echo circuit. I think it's without a doubt. I think, and because of that, I really like that there is that not so much rivalry, but that in the same lane there are two really good plays, and so then whoever wins that on that day played better. It's hard when like in a team's top lane is so much better. Is like their lane, right? Star player, but then the other team's star player is like their jungle, and then they never get to interact. Yeah. And so I think for Alpha, for both of our teams to have a really strong, same opposite sort of situation, it would have been really good to get to the grand final and see what would have happened. Where we're pretty bummed. Even if we lost the grand final, I don't think we would have cared that much. Yeah. It's more about getting there. I think the experience would have been really cool and getting there. And the TBH guys were, without a doubt, they were better than us in the semi-final. I'm not saying that. They deserved to beat us and to beat me, especially, given how I played. And Willie's amazing, and I look up to that guy, the way he plays top. But I think we're bummed because we just didn't get that chance. So looking forward to the future. Hopefully we stick around and we do get that chance to play because I think the top three from Echo, I think we're all pretty similar. And so I think it's always good to have that not knowing who might win on a certain night. It just makes it interesting to watch from a spectator's point of view as well, I think.
I want your opinion on something, right? So
tell me, go.
I'm about to blindside you with this, but going through some of the other tournaments, right? So we're talking Rift Royale and the couple circuits before that, right? Before the one that you just played in. I know you came in like recently. But there was my team which won the Rift Royale. It's the only ladder that WKW Alpha has not won in terms of like an iron to gold type scene. There was also a team called Team Tristana, which had, you could argue, some of the best players in their roles at the time. Okay. Yeah. Now, coming into this ladder, there's also notably the Bronze League, not here. Yep. Cheers were banned through external toxicity. Yep. So I want your thoughts on, now I mean this in no disrespect to your Black.
Where do we place?
But I just think in the circumstance of teams that could have played. Yeah. Right? So if you take the Bronze League that was playing together before the ladder and the fact that they just didn't play, or, you know, like me playing in the ladder as well, or a team such as Team Tristana who they stopped playing due to uni and they couldn't, you know, maintain the 3 ranked games per week. Now, I know that the ladder didn't have that, but they were already like kind of too far gone from competitive to care about coming back for it. Yeah, yeah. I do think those teams kind of shape it up a bit more in terms of just like player skill. I know people will come up through the ranks, you know, regardless in terms of like skill. Yeah. But I do think, you know, you're missing 15 or so of, you know, the top 35 players in path. Yeah. Yeah. And so it kind of leaves like a gap for people to fill. So I remember back when, like, this is straight after Gap had disbanded and Team Justana stopped playing, and someone was saying, man, you know, Cheers and Bronze have gotten real good. And I straight up said, everyone's gone from the top. right? Because this is when Alpha didn't have their full roster at the time.
Yeah.
They had like some subs and whatnot, so they were looking mad shaky.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, everyone's gone, everyone's missing. So obviously someone has to be at the top.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But if you re-input those players,
what happens?
Are they still at the top, you know?
I think it's tricky because our interaction with those teams, I don't particularly remember, but I remember being in the same circuits as them. Our identity and the way we play now is indistinguishable from when we started in those circuits. And so I like to think in my fantasy world that we still get to place pretty similarly than where we did if circumstances did change. But that's assuming that we play at the same rate when we were on at our best, when we beat basically Challenger 2-0, when we came really close to beating Alpha and TBH in other games. Like, I think, and just didn't get there. I think it's hard to guess the future because who knows how they would have played. Maybe they just absolutely smurfed it on those nights and no one expected it and we get absolutely thrown out. It's just, I'm still proud, even if we don't place third, if we place fifth or whatever. And I'm proud of my team for two reasons. The first reason I'm proud is because of the tier lists.
Yeah.
And the second reason I'm proud is because we have all really busy lives. I'm about to be working full time once study slows down. Our ADC is about to become a full-time paramedic. Our support is a high school teacher. We've all got things, and so it's really hard to organize and to prioritize League the way we would all really like to in order to be a really successful team. I'm not saying that's all it is, because even if we did practice, there are definitely teams better than us. And I really value the work that TBH and Alpha put in. I just think, given the resources that we can actually access as a team, I think it's impressive that we even get to come up against these teams, and it's not a complete just sweep off the planet. It's a shame those teams don't get to go in though, because I don't know about you, but I felt like when Kraken and Defiance left, it suddenly our circuit just felt a bit like there was a hole there now. It didn't feel as impressive to come first. From Alpha's perspective, if I was them, I wouldn't feel as good to come first. I wouldn't feel as good to come second as TBH, and I definitely don't feel as good to place third. So I don't know if other teams share that perspective, and so I'm not saying they shouldn't have left, because absolutely should have, but it's just, it would have been good if they were there to just build it up, and so everyone feels like it was more of a fight to get to where they ended up. Yeah, exactly. And it's still an accomplishment, but it's, from our perspective, I think we would have liked to get more out of it, but we obviously recognize that things happen, and
and they broke the rules, right? So
exactly, that the rules are there for a reason, and so it's completely understandable. And I think that's why for next time and for the circuit, I really hope everyone, supports whatever the staff team's going to look like in order to bring something that fixes those mistakes. And so the rules remain there, and that it can happen again, because I think everyone really loved it. I know our perspective and our experience as a team, it felt so cool to be a part of it. We just loved being a part of it. And so hopefully it continues and more teams join as well, which I'm sure they will actually this time.
I know of some teams biting at the bits to get in.
Yeah.
So MCOM, their Iron Gold team only slightly missed it.
Yeah.
For the fact that one of their I don't call him a co-owner. One of their managers, right, messed up the link to give them.
Oh.
And so they ended up missing the cutoff point. They were the 11th team in
that
Echo
sucks
instead of 10th. So they didn't actually end up getting to play. Which sucks, because I do think they could have made some noise as well.
Made an impact, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But I mean, you kind of touched on it, right? The tier lists. Now, I myself have my own tier list, which I made. I didn't put you guys at 10th. I put you guys at 8th. Right? As a team, I put you guys at 8th. And I think I quoted Flame could win some games.
Yeah.
Which I think isn't too bad, because I think some of the other general consensus was you guys were 9th or 10th. right? And then managing to make your way into third is quite impressive considering the standards that were set for you guys. Now, it does help that Defiance got DQ'd.
For sure. No, and no one's pretending that's not the case. Yeah, for sure.
And then, because Vigi Academy started off, I think it was like 0-6 or some shit, right?
Something like that. I don't remember.
Like it was very like it was winnable to get in.
Yeah.
With the level of team that they had.
Yeah.
But it was also a challenge because you had to win pretty much every single game, and they lost the last game to make in.
It came to a point where we had to recognize as a team, we need to pick at what's going wrong because we're just losing everything too easily. And there were games near the start of the circuit. And look, I'd like to preface and give context as well that for the first few weeks, when it comes to having a team identity in the way that we played the game, we were still going in 5 different directions. And that comes even down to who was coaching us at the time. And it also comes down to the way that we fit within the org as well. We were pretty like the identity comes like 2-pronged. It comes from how you play and then how you see yourself. And how we saw ourselves as a team was as just a complete outsider to this whole BSV thing. And so we felt like there was less pressure to play well. I feel like a team like Alpha or something who's really involved, like half their team are fucking staff members. Like it's a big, they need to win to really show off and just show what they can do. Whereas for us, there was not so much pressure. And so I don't know if this was the objective of the tier list, but seeing us ranked in that way and then looking at the names that were above us, that couldn't have been better motivation to be like, you guys are wrong. I'm sorry, but you're wrong. And so unfortunately, and like you touched on, we didn't get to prove people as wrong as we would have liked to because it was an easier road to third than it would have been. But there are, and I'm not throwing names or anything, but there are definitely people who made tier lists, put themselves above certain people in certain roles. And then those people in those roles from our team just couldn't have gapped them harder. And we're talking in our comms during the game, we're like we're like tier, like what are tier lists? What, like, if you're not putting thought, and so I no, there's no resentment because without that, I don't think we would have been motivated enough to get past that really hard period when we were losing every game. We were getting shitty with each other. Our VOD reviews were fucking like PUBG Battleground loading screens where we're all just smacking each other in the head, with our melee buttons. It was a nightmare. And so tier lists actually helped us be like, let's zero in on what we need to improve. And that helped us reassure ourselves what we need to prioritize when it comes to coaching and when it comes to what do we actually want to get out of the org? So what do we want to get out of Goguryeo? And how can we take what we want to get out of it and give it to ourselves? And we managed to do that. As soon as we started drafting for ourselves, as soon as we started to maybe, we have 2 dedicated shot callers in the team, but we figure that doesn't mean, and this is our limited understanding of playing competitively, because I'm new to the competitive scene.
Yeah.
How I understood it with macro is one person makes all of the shots and everyone else doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
And that can be good, but then also that puts all of the responsibility on one person whose micro is they're going to be completely shit because they're typing timers and they're thinking about all these objectives. So as soon as we started to figure out how to have those in-game conversations as a team, we could tell our macro was infinitely better than even some of the higher teams. It just came down to execution, which comes down to how you play on the day. I think, look at the TB8 semi-final, right? I think our macro was decent in especially the first game, but then it came down to just team fight decisions and not tracking back where we lost a few fights. This Willie Mordekaiser turned into this raid boss and we couldn't, and then you just can't deal with it anymore. And we think that winning that game 1 and then winning game 2, it's different. But even in the games that we lost, I would often be the one telling my team and being like, remember what people are saying about us. Think about what we've already achieved and remember that win or loss, if we improve in how we play the game, that's way more important because third place is $40 and first place is 80 and we split it 5 ways. We're not playing for the LCS Cup here. We just want to play to get better as a team. And because we care about each other as friends, that means more. Like it's not so easy to just kick someone out of our team and bring in someone new because we're all really close. So I think because we're close, we want to. There's just more to lose, I guess, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Like you talk about no expectations, right? Because that's kind of what the tier lists expected of you guys. Even myself, I was like, they're not gonna do fuck all. They're gonna be, we're below 0 was, right? Because I actually had below 0 at 10th.
Yeah.
Because I thought they were the worst team in the comp based off of, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks prior. I was free agenting. I had a gold jungler with me and a bunch of silvers and a iron top laner.
Yeah.
And I whooped them in game 1 of a single elim bracket, but like pretty much by myself. I was like, if I can do this alone, all the teams in theory should have no problem with them. Right?
Yeah.
And so it came based off like a prior history. It was the same, like my issue with Flame and like the way he plays is kind of what I was thinking, because I didn't really know the rest of you guys too well. I'd seen you guys play it a couple times, right?
Yeah.
But it's going based off of name value of the person I do know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then you kind of, I was like, because I don't know if I did a tier list of players. I think I just did teams. But I think I spoke about the players though, right?
Yeah, I think it was teams, but then you also you dived in both. So I think you talked about both. Yeah.
And I at the time I would have rated him maybe like 5th or 6th in mid laners, which considering some of the players in the comp, that's not too bad, right?
Yeah.
I'm kind of still slapping him in the face, right? Because he should in theory be up towards the top. Considering solo queue, I think he was, if not the highest ranked, I think pretty close to it.
He's pretty even. I mean, given if everyone's the rank that they say that they are, he's even to the highest rank for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But as you alluded to, right, solo queue to competitive is completely different.
So different.
I used to get flamed because at one point I was sitting in silver too, in rank.
Yeah.
But I could play an iron to plat. And it's because the shift was so easy for me in terms of I was playing a lot of Malzahar at the time. Solo queue was fucking horrible. Yeah, fuck you. Solo queue was horrible for playing around the team.
Exactly, yeah.
Because every count's just going to go run it down and it's like, well, my team-based champion does nothing now because you guys all entered the fucking rhythm, or there
needs to be some level of synergy for it to actually be successful. And so we found that Adams, when we started to play competitively, his best champ, this has become Adams' podcast. He's just getting the biggest shout out ever. No, but and I'll tie in what I want to say with the rest of the team as well. So he definitely had his solo queue champs that he would consistently beat people on. The stuff like Fizz, Lucian, stuff like that. When we started playing competitive, and I guess we just sort of fell into it, we wanted him to play more of a utility role. So stay alive in lane, farm, control the wave, and then come and gank, come and roam, right? So Galio. And then Galio quickly turned into such a reliable pick for us that it was banned every single game in PSV. Every single one Galio was banned. Yeah. And so it's huge props to him actually pulling that off. But where it gets tricky with ranks, right, is that for me, and I'm obviously talking about the TBH semi-final because I'm still so broken up about it, but the best example for me is when I was looking at Willie, right? Because each of our roles in our team, we look at the person we're versing, that's kind of like our job. And I was looking at him and at least that account, I'm not sure if he had any ults declared, I didn't look. But gold 3 or gold 4, I was like, piece of cake. I was plat 2 at the time. I was like, I'm going to smash this guy. I can turn my brain off. Who cares? And he played at my rank, if not better than me by a mile, even just the way he played lane. And so I'm starting to realize now entering the competitive scene, ranks don't fucking matter.
It's an illusion. Right.
Ranks don't matter at all. And it's depressing if someone gets graded on their rank, and I need to switch out of that, because that's a mindset I've had since I started playing in Season 4, that if you were a silver player, you are shit at the game, or if you're gold, you're okay, but you're not good, and then plat, you're amazing, and then so you have to adjust your expectations. And I think now that we've gone through what we went through in the circuit, coming back, I think we are going to be a force to reckon with, because our expectations are going to be really realistic, and we're going to have a good sense of what we need to achieve in what team we're versing, and a good sense of who we are despite ranks as well. As soon as I started playing competitive NV, I don't know about you, I don't give a shit about what happens in solo queue now.
I couldn't care less.
The game feels so much more involved and entertaining competitively. Even if you're not playing for much, it just feels like more of a win than solo queue does. And so my ranked border could mean it could be bronze for all I care, as long as the team stays together and we keep that competitive spirit.
Because a little bit about like my history, right? This is a little well known now, like to some people, like in my like inner circle, but I came through BSV, the original BSV. Right, which is why BSV has always kind of like been my home in a way. Even when I'm not on the staff team, or I'm at odds with people in the staff team and whatnot, it's still kind of always been mine.
It's where you're from.
Like you can, like, if you go back far enough in my account, you will see a shit ton of assassin games. And then you'll see it slowly change from assassins to control mages. And it's because I stopped giving a fuck about solo queue, where assassins, like, if you're good enough in an assassin, you will carry the game. Right? Because everybody's going to make mistakes, especially back when I was sitting in silver. Right? Because that's just the way of the game. No one's going to position properly. No one's peeling for the AD carry properly either. But like control mages, you've got more, like, you don't have to win the lane. Right? If, like, for instance, if you're playing Zed and you don't get a kill on your laner, your champion, like, it's not useless, but you don't get the lead that you should have. And so your champion becomes less useful than, for instance, if you played Cassiopeia or something, which scales up much harder. And so that's where, like, I came from, because I remember, I think I was in like Silver 3, and you won't know this name, but I was playing Lulu in ranked for some reason. Like, I was playing Lulu mid, right? Because I was like, I started playing Kazakh's mid, Nocturne mid at the time.
I was about to say, you're ahead of your time, because that's meta now, so...
I was like an innovator. Yeah. And I kid you not, he's like, why the fuck are you playing this? You should be playing Katarina. You're good enough to carry in this elo. And I was like, yeah, but Lulu's so much easier. like the champion was like so much easier to work with, because you don't have
and
to
you can feel more useful. You can feel more useful as well. And that's what we've had discussions as a team when it comes to our picks and our champ pools. It's less about what we think is going to be most successful in lane, and what do we want as a team. So if we want to go for objectives and we want drag control, then we pick champs that really excel at that. And unfortunately, and this is where I really struggle with top lane and my champ pool, is that Shen is my favorite champ by a yard mile. I love that guy so fucking much. And I'm good at it. It's my best champ. The problem is the meta is so revolved around staying in lane and getting plates that Shen is a dead champion. You cannot play it now, because as soon as I ult bot lane and secure that first drag, Willie's Mordekaiser stays top lane. He gets 4 plates. He's got like a 1k gold lead, and I have to crawl my way back to the top lane. And it's real, and that's the case.
He doesn't beat you up.
That's the case with every game with Shen, and so I totally get wanting to work something out in solo queue versus working out competitively, and it comes down to team identity. And I've said that a few times, and that's because that's what I think really, flicked the switch when it came to us starting to play well. We were like, okay, well, what do we actually want to achieve in games? Yes, we want to win, but how do we want to win? And as soon as we figured out that we needed to play around bot side and we needed to play around drags, teams didn't know what to do. They couldn't do anything, because me and Adam are strong weak side players, I think, on our good days. And so when we're playing weak side well, it can feel really impossible for the enemy team to actually get through, because when they're playing around bot, you go and get your top lane really fed. But if you can't do that, then you're just fucked and you just get bled out. And Jish, our jungle as well, is really, really good at tracking. And so that makes playing weak side even easier.
Yeah.
So it just, I think as far as our champ picks, we've really evolved. Like, I think a lot of us were one tricks. And so it's cool to feel more like a pro player. The more champs you can play, the more you feel like, you're actually making a dent competitively. Because otherwise you just get banned and then you just know you're going to play bad. And it feels like shit.
I got some stories where I've been fucking 5-banned in a game just because the team wants to fuck with me, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, somehow I'm on fucking Syndra in this really bad matchup because it's the champion they've baited me into because I've got nothing left,
Yeah, and it's like reading the meta as well. I think a few of us in our team have a hard time reading the meta. I know I do. Yeah. I sort of leave that to everyone else. I'm like, you guys run us through draft because I know how to play lane. I don't know how to do anything else. And so, when it changes every 2 weeks, that's the individuality of League, right? That's why you've got to stay on your toes. And so I think the teams that can't always be playing flex queue, can't constantly be practicing talking about the game, are going to fall behind. And then from there, it's just going to come down to raw skill and how we perform to see if we can actually get up. And so that's where we keep, GNC's expectations for our next split, all the things we've got coming up competitively,
Has to be winning, right?
Well, yeah. Well, our expectation is to win, but our expectation more than winning is to win the way we want to win, because there are certainly games where just randomly you have no idea what happened, the Nexus explodes, and you're like, okay, this VOD review is going to be completely fucked because I just went automatic that game. I hate that feeling. I hate it. Win or loss, I hate it. I think that's my OCD. I need to be in control of what's happening.
Yeah.
It's why I'm the team captain. It's all that sort of stuff. And so everyone brings a piece of themselves, I think, when they play. And it was an interesting experience, the circuit.
Well,
it was good.
Why don't we touch on the specific semi-final game then, right?
Let's do it.
You've kind of mentioned it a couple of times. Now, I did draft for you guys in the series.
You did?
I got a lot of criticism for that game 1 draft in Twitch chat.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I don't know if you've gone and read the Twitch chat or whatnot, but
we could care less. I wasn't even watching the stream.
Basically, I got a lot of flack for putting Flame on Cassiopeia because he looked very uncomfortable on it. Now, knowing the guy for so long, I know he plays it.
He plays Cass. Yeah, he does. Yeah.
And because we had spoken about it because it was coming back with the buffs.
Yeah.
Right, and now I had the opinion of, we leave Silas open.
Keeping Silas open, yeah.
But obviously, at the end of the day, it's not my decision. You guys are the ones playing, and if I put you guys into an uncomfortable position, then it's like
you're doubling down on what could happen negatively. And I think, we struggled in the circuit, and one of the main things we struggled when we were losing was that in draft, the people helping us, there was no time outside of actually being in game on that night to actually talk about it, to talk about how we play as a team, to talk about what champs we want to prioritize. And I think you did really, really well at trying to mesh that as well as you could. But it's working with limited resources. You can only it's like when I'm counseling. I can only work with the information I get told from a client. And if they don't tell me anything, then I've got very little to work with. And that's not to say you can't work when someone does that. You absolutely can, and you did. But it was never going to be perfect because there was no time to actually build that synergy. And I think a lot of people think synergy it only matters with the people you're playing with. But I couldn't disagree more. It comes from coaching and it comes from the staff as well. It's really important to build synergy there. Looking back, I think we leave Silas open and we give Adam Cass. I think that was stupid. I know I had a lot of nerves going into that semi-final, not only because even though we were coming from like a 7 or 8 game win streak in BSV, I was worried because I knew that TBH were a good enough team to beat us on a good day.
Yeah.
And when you have that perspective of a team, if they've got a one trick, you get unreasonably scared. And you forget that champion has counters. You forget that champion can be beaten. And a champion like Silas, when it gets fed, is the most uninteractive piece of shit on the planet. So I think you can probably reconcile with the fact why we said keep Silas banned.
Yeah.
If it's open, does the game result change? Probably not, because it was less about the champions picked. It was more about the way we played it. I don't know what you think, but
I personally think if they're playing Silas, their comp changes a lot.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's another...
Who did he play? Who did Brenny play game 1? Do you remember?
Viego.
That's right.
I think it was Viego.
That's right. Yeah, you're right.
Because it was like, and like the Cassio still like whooped the lane because that's what Cassio does into melee matchups. But Cassio is really good into Silas for the fact that the W, the miasma, the poison on the ground.
Yeah.
He can't W it, right? He can't use Kingslayer and he can't E.
Both dashes, yeah.
Because they're both considered dashes, even like. So if, let's say, Brenny goes in on Flame chucks the W down on himself and he just kites it out.
He's stuck. Yeah.
And he pretty much always wins the trade because he ends up just kiting out range of the W. Because I also thought Flame was good enough at Cassiopeia, he could do that.
And I think it's a shame because I think he is, and I think we didn't give him a chance. And I don't know if it comes down to form. I think a few of us didn't feel in form going into the series. I know I didn't. And so that makes it hard then. And I think we really needed to almost work on our mental health going into the series, because you think about what was on our backs, right? Like we had the expectations of the org that we represent. We had a community that I wouldn't say was against us, but certainly didn't. There were very little Go Euro fans in the chat, which is fine. And I completely understand that. And so we felt like the underdogs. And then unfortunately we didn't play like underdogs, unfortunately. And I think things can change. Look, I look back at the game. We did VOD review them. We did get a few things out of it. I think there were 2 key fights. The first one was the skirmish up in top lane. Nate gets ulted as the ADC by Maud. We're winning the fight outside of Mordekaiser ult. All we needed to do after our initial engage was track back. We just needed to track back, sit on the Mordekaiser, because he was fucking ages away from his team. Huyar and the other guys were jerking around in the alcove. They weren't even close to what was happening. If we tracked back and killed him, fights won. That game ends pretty much there because we were already ahead. That fight brought the gold lead back to being even. And so it sucks when it's one play that's so easily changed that changes the course. And it's not to take away from them, because they could have very easily thrown as well that game 1, and they didn't. They actually took advantage of it and beat us. I think as a team, and in the next sort of few months of competitive play, we're going to work on building our confidence in our solo lanes and not falling into that ban trap of, oh my God, he plays so much of this champ. And even if we play a champ that completely counters it, we don't back ourselves. We actually just think they're better.
Them, right?
And so we get rid of it. We need to be playing with confidence, basically. And we've been talking about that. So
because my basis was, right, it's a best of 3. If it works game 1, you put them on the back foot, because in his head he's like, fuck, I just lost
my champ.
And I lost, right? It's what the Koreans teams used to do to the Western teams in the start of the series. They would give you like your best comp, you would get shit stomped, and then they start banning your best champions.
It's true.
And it's like you're just broken inside, because you couldn't beat them on their best, right? So how are you gonna beat them when you're not on your best?
It's a mind game. Like League is just as much a mechanical, where do I click, how fast can I do it? It's a mind game as well about how you play. And so it's a shame it took us a bit of time to figure out how we build our confidence and how we play like that. But I still thought the series was good. I still thought it would have been fun to watch. It was entertaining to watch. I feel the fact that it was 2-1 makes it entertaining. And that's what matters most, really. I mean, from me, my perspective, I want to get into streaming. I want to build my media. I want to build my brand. I want to build the org's brand. So what matters most then naturally in my priorities is being an entertaining team. And so I hope, even if we didn't place as high as we could have, that we were entertaining in parts. And I think the tier lists and stuff like that only built that up because it's fun to see a team rated so low
make it through,
play
right?
better than that. It's like, oh, cool. I'm going to actually tune in because if Alpha's just beating everyone, it's like, oh, that's very well and good. But why would I watch? Because I know it's like Richmond with the AFL last night. I didn't watch the game because I really felt like we were going to lose. And then we turned around and won it. And then you get all hyped and you're like, holy shit, we're an underdog.
Holy shit, we won. Right?
We're not shit. Yay. So it's a whole thing. But I think the fact that we get to do those more intense, exciting games, that semi-final, that grand final, that's what's cool to me because that experience of feeling nervous and feeling like there's a lot to lose here, that was invaluable to us as a team, and it's only going to make us better moving forward, I think, as well.
The one thing I would watch out for is that now you guys kind of have expectation.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I'm gonna use me as the example, right?
Yeah.
I go into a tournament.
It costs 650 and now it's falling apart. Anyway, keep going.
Look, I go into a tournament, right? Doesn't matter who my teammates are. The expectation on me is to win.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if I don't win, it is considered a failure.
Yeah.
And so like, your expectation in the ladder was to make the top 8. Like, I'm sorry, but it was.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I agree with you.
And so you guys got past Stormwolves Academy in the first round, which, you know, like their team, they had like major issues, and it's like,
I was about to say it was a clean wipe, but I think in a bit like below zero as well. I think yes, those guys were given a chance. Were they given as good of a chance as other teams? No, in my opinion, due to the fact that they had a lot of roster fuck ups and a whole bunch of things that happened that everyone knows about. So
so
it's hard.
Yeah, so I'm not like wiping, you guys should have won, because I still had you guys losing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because some of the individual players that were on that team, right? Outside of the bot lane, because I believe it was Greg Arcane. Arcane was
Stormwolves.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Arcane was touted as one of the best supports in Iron to Gold, right? Going back not too far ago.
Yeah.
He's had a lot of form issues, I'm sorry, buddy, but it's true. Based on the fact he's been playing uni and
it's hard.
Yeah. And then like they probably had, you could argue, one of the best mid jungles duos in theory, right? On paper, they should have had one of the best mid jungle duos.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the top laner, I believe it was Optimistic.
Who I played.
I heard some story. It was either Optimistic or Seraph, or like Shuri was playing top, or some.
No, it would have been Optimistic then, because it wasn't the other two, so it would have been Optimistic. Yeah.
Right, and so like that top side of the map should have been
the Malphite player, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that top side should have been able to compete in that series.
Yeah.
And then the bot lane just had to not run it down.
Yeah, so and I think it's a lot of teams. I think quickly came, and I don't know how much people were watching the games that we lost and the games that we won leading up to those semi-finals and stuff like that. My bot lane, Nate and Tom, Lucky and Wildlife, they had a lot of frustration in a lot of our games because we would pick them strong side.
Yeah. And then not play.
And they would pick something like Morgana or Lulu and not interact with the lane at all. And it sucks because they know that they're so much better, but you can't play. If Morgana's sitting back and just Wing the wave and never being in range, it doesn't matter how good you are. And so obviously like there's an opportunity then in that scenario to dive, right? Like they pick something like Jinx or they pick something like Cogmore. The way to beat it is you dive bot lane. And so that was a big glaring error that we had as a team in our VOD reviews, being like there were so many opportunities to get Nate fed so he can carry, and he couldn't. And so I think we're pretty good at analyzing our stuff. I think what was tricky and what we didn't expect is that it's not just us looking at our VOD reviews, other teams are thinking about us as well. And so then what comes into question as a good team is how do you adapt? And we couldn't do that. And whether that comes to coaching, not to say you, but as in like not having a consistent voice and a consistent person to know us to help us adapt, or whatever it was all a really good learning experience. I think Shuri and those guys, I feel for them because I've been in a position where it felt like an impossibility to get 5 people who are committed on the same track in the same mindset and be a team. It's so hard. So I feel for him. I feel for Below Zero as well because they were in a similar situation. Yeah, I think as much as we learned things from the circuit, everyone did.
Yeah.
And I think as long as it stays as a non-toxic and supportive environment for everyone, that's going to get people to tune in. Because they're going to feel like each team is as equal as they can be in order for it to be an interesting series to watch. But like Envy, you look at Pro Play and they have similar problems as well. You know, like TL, TSM, 100 Thieves, everyone knows it's between those guys, or C9, and it's like, well, why are we watching when fucking GG and EG play? Who cares? Who fucking cares? FlyQuest, why are we watching them? No one cares.
People don't watch them.
No, exactly. And it sucks because they're there. They're players. They're still pro players. And so I think it's the same for BSV. As equal as the brackets are, that means more viewers because it's exciting to watch a 50-50 game rather than something that you know that's going to be a wipe.
But in saying that, right, you kind of touched on something I kind of wanted to like touch on, right?
Go on, glad I alley-ooped you.
With Lucky and Wild, you know, having people play defensive bot lanes into them.
Yeah,
I'm of the advocate that you guys should have been able to punish that, like you said, with the dives and all that.
Yeah.
Because I was the defensive bot lane in our Rift Royale winning, right?
Yeah.
Because at the time it was WKW Alpha under MCOM.
Yeah.
But instead of their current top laner, they had a much worse top laner.
Yeah.
And so my top lane completely gapped him.
Yeah.
And my jungle was able to, you know, like pace Jep, right? Nay was very good at doing the same pace as Jep, right? We knew where Jep was a lot of the game.
Yeah.
My mid laner was equal to G-Bit. He got solo killed in like game 2 once or twice. But like the rest of the series, he was like pretty good at you know, maintaining. We were playing around the jungler. And so my job on the AD carry was I don't die. I don't die to Shiny.
Exactly, yeah.
Right? And because of that, my top lane got so far ahead. Me and Shiny, he might be up 25 farm. But
that's fine if everyone, that's fine, yeah.
Because my top lane is playing like Wukong or something. And because I'm on Tristana every game, we just murder them in the team fights. And there's not too much they can really do about it because how are they punishing me when we know where Jep is 24/7?
Yeah.
Right? And they can't get in to dive us because Nay was very good at being around for that dive.
Yeah. It's hard because like it's still beating them because even though yes you're not interacting and you're not putting your mechanics against someone else, there are certain matchups and certain champs that if you do that you're stupid because you never win it. There are champs that will just stat check you and there are lanes and CC chains that you just can't escape. So on that level you give credit for them for recognizing what their role was. On the other hand though, there's an opportunity to interact and to even try to even be there. And so it was less about playing weak side for a lot of the bot lanes that we had to come against, and it was more you're not even trying to win. And I guess it's a strategy in itself. It's just I would say to the teams to versus, if you try and do that again, knowing what we know now, it's not going to go well. So I hope people start to actually interact with Nate and Tom and go against them. And let's see how that goes, because if you go the other way, it's not going to look good. But it's credit because the team that wins is the team that wins, right? Like you don't, and I've had to get good at that. I played a lot like solo in the LCS, where it's balls to the wall, throw my lane into a complete coin flip. If I win, it's sick and I'm carrying. If it's not, I'm feeding and I won't stop feeding. And so a huge thing for my micro was to recognize what my role was very early on, depending on game state, and then sit there and try and be consistent with it. And some teams are definitely better at that than others. I like to think we're okay with it now, but we had a lot to learn. And a lot of those games that we dropped early on, we could have won, but it was a lot of us all trying to be the carry. And so when you put like 2 out of the 3 lanes on a coin flip status, chances are, statistically, you're not going to win it
Nah.
when you really should have. And so,
Yeah, I
you know,
mean,
you live and you learn.
kind of the next point I want to bring up, right, is
Yeah.
let's say hypothetically, right, you guys
Mhm.
did place ninth, right?
Yep.
And your bot lane was touted, very good players, but the rest of the team was shit, right?
Yep.
I don't because knowing talking to them, I don't think they leave. I think you guys level up as a team. Um, I had a background. Now this is going back 2 years or so, right? Where I was on a very shit team, right? It had many rotating doors. We were rotating silver 4 junglers who were mid mains, but because I was mid, they weren't playing mid, and
Yeah, right.
it was a shit fest.
Yeah.
And it at the time it ruined people's perception of me.
Yeah.
Because all they saw at the end of the game was the stat line.
Yeah.
Especially if they don't see the actual game.
Yeah.
So I would, I could be winning or, matching my mid laner, but if both my side lanes are running it, right? Because my bot lane was bad at the time as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I'm trying to micro my jungler and tell him, go top, I'll come with you. Or, we go for an invade here, and it's ruining my own gameplay because as a mid laner, I shouldn't be worrying about what my jungler is doing.
Yeah.
I should be focusing on my lane state and, applying the pressure in that angle.
Yeah.
And so when the team finally disbanded and I got myself on an actual contender, everyone's like, holy fuck, Envy's actually not that. Obviously, because it's me and I talked a lot of shit even when I was losing.
Yes,
no one wanted to actually give credit, right?
Yeah.
But I think people actually started to realize he's not actually that bad of a player. Yeah, he just talks a lot of trash. And so I think people have realized that about your bot lane. And I think Flame is still middle of the pack on a bad day. I think when he's in a very good mindset and the meta kind of favors him, that's when he can start to clap heads.
Oh,
so to
for
speak.
For sure.
You kind of flipped the games in the semifinals. I didn't see the third Gwyn game, but apparently it wasn't great.
Nor should you. Avoid it. Just watch a train crashing into an ocean off the bridge. Red Dead Redemption 2, Arthur absolutely blows that shit up with dynamite. That's kind of the vibe. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it kind of opens your eyes up to players who are good. And I said this about Lee Orphans, going back a while ago. A lot of people are like, oh, he's so much better than you. I still don't think he is. Right?
Yeah.
I think in our matchups, he had an actual jungler. Because I had some guy running around in the jungle pretending he was a jungler.
Yeah.
Fuck you, brains. But it was bad. And I had this quote where I was like, once the meta returns back to control mages, he's going to be shit. Right?
Yeah.
But the meta never actually ended up being control mages again. It's still not really control mages. It's a lot of Viego, it's quite a lot of Yone. Because he was a Irelia OTP.
Yeah. Well, look at Irelia now, right? It's that meta of 900 gold item giving you infinite sustain in a lane that you can so easily achieve and ignore trades. I think that's I look at Adam and I feel bad because I think in top lane it's a really, really good time to be a top lane player because you can play anything. I've been spamming Sejuani top right now in ranked and having really good success with it, and it's so fucking fun, man. You can play anything to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Mid lane, I don't think is like that, and I've been talking to Adam about it, and it sucks because it's two things. You're not reading the meta, and then the champs that you're good at, unfortunately, don't fit in the meta either. And so that's where we need to consider, okay, then what's your role now? Because we can't be months and months in to playing competitively and still not have you have your own identity. And that's something that I've struggled with. And we've had to slowly figure it out. And it comes down to shot calling as well. Once we started allocating people, we got a clear idea of who understands the game better than others. It's not like when you're in a team, all of you have 1/5 of the same idea of how you play macro. I agree, Tom and Nate have a way better understanding of the game and on macro level things than I do.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to look to them and rely on them to carry games. And it's not to say we're always going to play around bot, because we're not. Because I can very easily mechanically dump someone top lane if I get a good matchup. And even if I'm in a bad matchup, but I know that I'm better than them. And so we'll play around top then. But I think overall, if we think about our voice comms, we are looking towards bot lane because they have the best idea.
Yeah.
And so it's about give and taking. I think Adam's had to sacrifice quite a bit to play with this team the way we want to play. I don't think it suits his style of play.
No, it does not.
And so, yeah, I think it's obvious. And so it's credit for him to actually sticking with us and staying, because it's not easy to do that. But we're going to be using this time off, and we're about to start scrims next week and start consistent practice to build up that synergy again, especially micro synergy. So the way that you play your lane needs to reflect how your opposite lanes play and how your jungle wants to play around you. Because if you're prioritizing one thing, say farm or getting good recall timers or getting your power spikes on the exact right time, and we want to be looking for picks or we want to be looking to set objectives up really, really early, more often than not, you're going to be left in the dust. And that means you're either going to get 1v4'd and die, and then we can't contest, or it means that you're going to be late to things and your mid lane is going to roam first. It sounds like I'm just begging at Adam. I'm not, because I do the same thing top lane, and bot lane's definitely had their issues with it as well. Jungle the same. So I'm so grateful that we can have all these issues as a team and it not be like this taboo thing, like where no one can bring it up, or it's like, you're not playing super good. Is everything okay? Like, we can just talk to each other honestly and be like, you need to get your shit together. I need to get my shit together. Let's play better. Let's play a game right now. Let's talk about it. And it's so freeing to have that. So I wish like the guys like Below Zero and Shuri and Stormwolves to find that core group. It matters so much more what people are like in themselves rather than the sort of thing that they do in game, because you can change how someone plays in game. Like, and I'll even open up a little bit about our team now and how we're evolving. We've brought in 3 new substitutes. We're using next week to get them involved with our team, and we want to build depth. And it's for 2 reasons. The first reason is because our lives are getting more busy. I'm about to move out by myself for the first time. Nate's about to start his new full-time job. Yeah, I know, exciting. So like lots of stuff where we're going to be less available. And so we want to build up these new guys. And yes, they're lower ranked than us. Are they shitter? Probably not. We just need to give them a chance. And so I'm really excited for the new chapter that we're starting with the team. And I'm grateful to the org for giving me the opportunity to do it. It's fun. I hope the competitive scene only gets better and upgrades itself from this circuit, because I think everyone needs it. It's so good to have something like this, because it fucking sucks to just be a solo queue player and to play with friends sometimes, but for that to be your motivation, I can't think of that now. I can't go back in a way, I don't think, mentally. Yeah, it's interesting.
I might as well bring up like kind of like the last thing that I wanted to bring up, right? Now it's this whole idea, and I'm again on the record of stating I wanted ladders over the random one-off weekly tournaments just because it is so much better for storylines, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Now you mentioned you wanted to, you know, entertain her and whatnot. A ladder gives you the opportunity as a organization such as BSV, TMG, or whatnot, you could have stat sheets, right, of, well, when this player played into this player 2 weeks ago.
So many opportunities, yeah.
Right? You know, he kind of shit the bed. Let's see how he does now, right?
He's looking to come back. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then because of a show such as Pislow, who they kind of like, they bring people on, talk about like week to week, right? They had Huya, Zalakis on. I think early on they may have had another player playing in it.
Yeah.
I know they've had Shuri on as well, I think.
Yeah, they have. Yep.
And so you can kind of, like, you could potentially, as the org, get like a sound clip of that, right?
Yeah.
Especially, like, if you're talking shit about someone, or like you're like, that team's not actually that good, and then next week that team beats your team, then out comes like a promo package, right? And you start to build like some fun, friendly, like tension.
That's right.
And then it's like, oh well, they're playing on stream in 3 weeks' time. But you gotta tune into that game. Like, you know, you gotta see who comes out on top, right? It's why in the Twitch chat, even if I'm playing an Iron to Plat or Iron to Gold, it doesn't really matter. A lot of people will come to the Twitch chat to watch me feed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They wanna see me play. Because of how outspoken I am. And if I run it down, well, out comes like the 7 or 8 clips of different moments in the game I died.
Yeah.
Or, you know, if I'm popping off, it's like, wow, you know, he's having a good game for once. Something along those lines. My main example would be when Stormwolves and VG Academy broke up, right? Like when the teams went their own separate way, they could have streamed that game. Yeah, I know they had a schedule and they're trying to be like inclusive to, you know, every team to get the same amount of screen time. But me being selfish and a prick, I don't want to watch 9 play 10, right? Like, no offense to a victim below 0, I don't want to watch those two play.
Yeah.
Because it's a waste of time. Because I'm sorry. I get,
it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. No, you go. I think the only thing that brought up for me was that shut up, bitch. Let me talk now. No. It's for those guys, and I think it's about recognition because outside of the competitive scene, the only recognition really that you're getting is going on people's int lists when you're in solo queue. Like that's your fame.
I'm on some.
I don't know. Maybe that's just for me. Maybe I've just exposed myself. How shit I play in solo queue. No, but so I get the wanting to stream better games. The only thing I challenge there is that these teams at 9 and 10th, the only thing they're wanting to play for realistically, because they're aware that they're 9 and 10th. Yeah. We were aware of the position we were in like week 6 or week 7. We were very aware of what was happening. It doesn't mean we don't want to get streamed. It means that, well, it actually means more for us to be streamed.
Yeah.
Because it makes us feel valued, makes us feel wanted. And I get it's a balance because, yes, you want to cater to the teams and make them happy. But at the end of the day, you're an organization that's building its brand on Twitch. And to do that, you need people to be tuning in. So it's always going to be a hard conversation. I don't know how you fix it. I don't know if it means you need more casters. I don't know if it means you need more personalities. I know you've co-streamed some things. I think co-streaming is a great idea. I think especially for someone like, say you were co-streaming a victim below 0, right? Suddenly, it's more entertaining. Not just because of you, but because now there's someone that's known broadcasting something that's not known at all. And so you give those teams clout. You make it entertaining. And I think you would be capable of actually doing that, even if the gameplay isn't the hottest. I just think the talk around let's stream the games from the top teams, it's not biased for me, but I figure the gap between, say, a team like Below 0 and Weekend Warriors Alpha, right, for an example, like the top and the bottom, well, maybe a Vic Clan was actually below 0, so sorry, below 0, a Vic Clan and Alpha, yes, there's a gap. I think for some people, they need to recognize that gap is not as big as they think it is. I think at the end of the day, we're all in the Echo circuit. And so to get everyone a fair turn, I think BSV could do a really good job about getting more people involved in the streaming side of things. To get everyone streamed, because I'll tell you what, we definitely play better when we know we're streamed. I think we used to joke about it, but when we're in the loading screen, we're like, oh, we're not being, this is like Iron to Gold, right? Before the circuit. When we knew we weren't on the streaming side of the bracket, we were like, oh, this will be fun. Like, what are we playing for? You know, so there's an element of that. And I think a lot of teams probably share that sentiment in that you do feel like you're playing just a little bit worse when you're not being streamed. I guess we do. But you have to balance it because storylines are super important for the players as well. I think parts of the audience, but when you're playing and you feel like you've got something to prove, you play a more entertaining version of League. You're either going to play way less safe because you've got something to prove, or when you get the resources to carry, you're going to play like fucking Double Lift in his prime. You're going to go off. Or at least you're going to try to. And even if you crash and burn, it's still cool that you limit tested and that you made the effort. It's hard to consistently make that effort when you're not being streamed and you care less.
It's like the whole top of the mountain thing again, right?
Yeah.
You get complacent. And that sucks, right? When you're complacent, like there's also like when you stream a team too much, because I believe again I'm going back to the only letter I actually cared about, which is the one I won, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No.
It's the only one we care about, right? It was like, you're streaming Envy's team again, but it was like a weekly tournament, right? So depending on how the bracket went, even if they weren't streaming us in the first or second round, because we were always winning, we would make it to the stream at like game 2 or game 3, and because we would win, it's like, well, we're following them for like 3 or 4 games because like there was a lot of games back then.
Yeah.
I guess kind of like maybe like the last thing might be the length of the tournament. Because it was forever.
Yeah, I've got my opinions for sure.
I know privately you brought up we're always playing on patch week, right?
Yeah.
Which it was a benefit in some ways depending on the patch, but it was also a hindrance.
Depending on the patch, right? Because there we used to laugh. We used to post it in like our team's Discord and be like, "Oh, all of Jonah's champions are now fucking shit," or "All that's Adam's champ pool gutted." And so we knew what we needed to do that week, and it sucks because we don't get enough time. And I think for a team that doesn't get to practice or scrim as much as other teams, to play that week, that's hard. Do I think that maybe the higher circuits like the Gamma or whatever could have maybe played on patch week because they could adapt better? Maybe. I'm not sure how they actually decide which circuit plays on which day.
Sorry
to
cut in. It was so Tuesday was already the Iron to Plat day.
Right. Okay.
Thursday was the Iron to Gold day, and they chucked the High Elo day on Monday.
Okay. Well, that makes more sense, and yeah, I get that. Do you know what I mean though? Like, I feel like it's just it's trial and error. I think you just have to treat it as that. And so if you keep, it's the definition of insanity. If you keep doing the same thing and blocking off everyone else's feedback, not to say that BSV did this, but if like I worry that I'm prone to it sometimes in my own team. So I think people externally who have more responsibility, say like Josh from BSV, like people who are making all these amazing efforts so we can play and have these storylines, you can very much fall into a trap of like, well, it just needs to be my decision. So everyone else needs to just be quiet, and we're just going to do it our way. Yeah. And that comes down to being complacent as well, because then you're not willing to try different stuff and see what happens. Yes, there's a chance less people watch the stream if it's a lower ranked team. And yes, there's a chance people don't tune in or they don't even play in the circuit, but at least you tried something different to see if it goes better. It's trial and error.
Yeah.
I think the idea of the time length, the time in which it took for the circuit to end, we all felt as a team it was too long. What's hard is that even though it was too long, we really enjoyed all of the practice we got and all of the opportunities we got.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily, and I said this in my feedback in the Discord, I said, yes, I agree with the people who were saying it's too long. How do you go about fixing that? I don't fucking know. So good luck. So it's a bit shit because I know it felt negative. I don't know how you turn it into a positive. I really don't. And I guess that comes down to my inexperience with actually being in the competitive scene. I don't know what works and not works yet. Yeah. I've only just come in. I just hope from my feedback has to come from an external perspective. We were outsiders coming into the BSV community. And I think the people who are running BSV are very close with some of the top teams. Even some of the top teams, like I've mentioned, are actually part of that team. And so it unfortunately can bring an air of bias, or it can make people who are external feel not as involved, which is fair enough. It's the first thing. And so when you do that, you run the risk of people getting antsy. And so I think to avoid people getting antsy, maybe in the future, to establish that line between this is BSV and these are the teams, and our community sits somewhere in the middle, like it's a bell curve. Maybe that changes people's perspectives. But as far as I know, yes, my team and myself had some negative feedback, but it was overwhelmingly a positive experience. And so that's really important to note. Even though, yes, there were things to change, we still loved it. And whatever it is in the future, I know it's going to be better than the one we just did.
Yeah.
I know that for a fact, because that's just how these things work.
Well,
So
because
it's all exciting, really.
my like one or two like points of how they could improve it would be
Yeah.
instead of 2 games per night, you go three
Yep.
games per night, which in
Okay.
theory shortens it by 3 weeks.
Mhm.
Now, to do so, instead of the playoffs being single elim, you do a
Mhm.
LCS style format playoffs.
Mhm.
So that would be 1 and 2 are slotted into semi-finals, 3 and 4 are slotted into the upper bracket, with 4 and 6, and then 7 or 8 are automatically slotted into lower bracket.
Okay. Yep.
Just for the fact of it kind of values placing higher as a seed, right?
Yeah,
Um,
it means something. Yeah.
yeah, and because there was some issues with the fact that 1 and 3 were on the same side of the bracket.
Yeah.
Um,
So it's like, why did we place first? Like, it doesn't matter. We could have just placed third.
yeah, where in theory,
Yeah.
they get to play 8 seed, but they should also
Yeah.
have like 4 and 5 on their side.
Yeah. You want an advantage if
Yeah.
you did well in the actual season. Yeah, I agree.
Whereas, because you could argue Alpha going into it was arguably, right, in some people's eyes, the best team.
Yep.
They just had a lot of roster issues during the actual split
Yeah.
of things.
Yeah.
And so, as like Crack and Sapphire, obviously before they were DQ'd, it's like, why do we come? What we should have just came second, right? We get no actual benefit other than we have to play these fuckers in the semi-finals.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it becomes a bit more iffier. But yeah, I would have liked to see like a lower bracket. Again, ties back into like the storyline type thing.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to stream everything from the official BSV account,
No.
right? You would have to. Now they do have a pretty large staff team.
Yeah.
And I know quite a few of them were able to broadcast, right?
Yeah.
Or even if instead of broadcasting, you have someone record the games.
Yeah.
In the if someone has a editing tool, you chuck over the BSV overlay,
Yeah.
and some of your more experienced casters, you get them to cast over it in their free time,
Yeah.
right? In
Yeah.
terms of if they haven't seen the game, and then you chuck it on your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Because the teams could give them the file for that.
Yeah.
They could do it in their own time, preferably before the next week of games.
Yeah.
And that kind of fixes a lot of it. You get more traffic to your YouTube channel
Yeah.
for more content.
More content and more for the team as a brand as well. And I
Yeah.
think it was interesting. Something I noted personally from watching, I think near the end in the final sort of series of all the different like circuits. I think Gamma, so the one below Echo, the one we played in,
one
the
above.
casters and their attitude and their mannerisms during that series
Yeah.
was a stark comparison than the one in Echo. And now I get that like the players are better. I think and for me, like I'm an aspiring caster, I want to do that sort of thing. I think regardless of who's playing, you can still make it super entertaining. Like look at
Yeah.
Trick2G when he does those streams where he gets his like bronze subs to play against each other. He makes it hype. He makes it interesting. And I know that there are some teams and some players who have the stream on a second monitor while they're playing. And it's a difference in your gameplay to hear a caster be like, and they get the Baron, and they'll probably end, and someone's bought a control ward, versus like, and here comes the, and it's just a bit different.
The energy,
and so,
right?
yeah, that would be my feedback. And again, how you go about it, I'm not sure. But I love your idea with the YouTube channels. It doesn't have to be live.
Well,
So
'cause it
there's
gives
lots
you-
of different things you can do.
It
Yeah.
gives you the opportunity of, for instance, you wanting to becoming upcoming
Yeah.
caster, right? But
Yeah.
if you're not confident enough to do it on broadcast,
It's
on the
more
first
pressure.
time,
Yeah.
right? You could go and record yourself doing it a couple times, right? You could do a couple of the games, and then once you're ready to be on the live broadcast, the pressure might still be there, but your
Yeah.
experience of it is also higher.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
for sure.
it
And an
just-
amazing training tool as well. Like
Yeah.
to practice that with a safety net, to know that you can just take a breather if you need to. And I know I'm not the only person who wants to actually do something like that as well.
Yeah.
So I think there are so many opportunities that as long as something change or someone takes the risk to be like, let's do this differently, everyone's in full support. I think sometimes in a big community, people can fall into their little cliques and their little groups, and they sort of form their own beliefs about how things should be run. I think BSV, if I was to give them any advice, would to be remembered that even though, yes, there are those cliques and yes, there are those people who believe differently how things should run, everyone just wants to have a good time. That's a blanket thing, and everyone wants to be streamed and to feel like that. Because the idea of getting into low elo competitive scene, I believe, is to feel like you're the people that you used to idolize and watch when it comes to those people from the League of Legends community that you think are really cool. So to replicate that to the best of your ability, I think could only be a good thing. It could only make the teams play better, which is the goal as well. So,
well, I mean, yeah, because if you're like, oh, well, we're on the YouTube channel, it's like all games.
How exciting! All
games would matter, right? Because you have the official broadcast, and then you've also got the games which would be around the same kind of style. Obviously, they're not actually live, but it would still be the same amount of effort, especially when, for instance, it comes out on the YouTube channel. Let's say the games are Thursday, and the games get, voted over the weekend, and it comes out on the Monday, right?
Yeah.
For those teams, it's like, holy shit, and like you have like 3 days of like hype for those players, and then maybe they're on the official broadcast the next week, and people were able to see all of the games. It's also a good scouting tool.
Yeah.
Right? Because you don't just have to look at, the battle fight had the end of game results, but they actually threw the game.
Doesn't give everything. Yeah.
They threw the game at 45 minutes, right? And it's like, well, damn, I guess the team that won was actually just the better team the entire game, even though
could not be true.
On paper, it's not true.
Yeah. It's hard. I think overall, overwhelmingly, it's that butterfly effect. You start putting content on YouTube and stuff like that, and then people will want to then replicate that content for their own content. I mean, like NVU as well. You've got your own brand and opportunities that if someone makes a VOD of another game, you could very easily watch over that, do your own sort of like what Casual does with LEC games. Puts that on his, and how many people, I fucking view those religiously. I love it. That's my way to watch pro play now. There's so many opportunities. A BSV podcast, get players of opposing lanes and roles to come and go on and sort of not battle it out, but like have that banter. And I think if you can regulate banter and shit talk, it is such a good and valuable tool. I think there were times in this circuit where it wasn't regulated very well, and it made people feel a bit awkward and a bit like, what's going on? How come they can say this and we can't? That sort of thing. Yeah. You regulate that, and people will only want to communicate together and be a part of the community together. And those teams that come in externally, like Goga Euro and Below Zero, we're only trying to add to the community. We're not trying to take anything away from it. And, for BSV to give us so much, me as a team, me as a person, who wants to get into the gaming scene a bit more, like there's too many opportunities to pass up. So I really hope that they don't. But it seems like you've definitely got your ideas, sir, as do I. But yeah, I think they've just got to listen to the majority of people who have an understanding. I think don't listen to me as much, because what the fuck do I know? I've only just got here. But for someone like you, listen, because I think you'd know what works. You've been around for a long enough time, and you're not the only one either.
Apparently I don't do any work. But that's an inside joke. No
comments.
That's an inside joke.
No comments.
I don't think you know that one, but that's an inside joke.
I definitely don't.
I know, I did too much work. Right. I will thank you for coming on to the show. Right?
No worries, man.
It could have been worse, right?
The show?
Yeah, of course it could have been.
That's some great feedback. I hope you've stopped recording.
No, of course I haven't.
Well, thank you for having me. This was really cool. Really good opportunity. I hope I come on again. It was good. Thank you, sir.
Maybe win the next split, yeah? We're gonna have like a victory talk, right?
We win. I'll have the trophy in the background. You'll have your oil painting of yourself with your ego, and then I'll have my ego painting, which can be the PSV trophy right here. I'll get rid of this poster. It's fucking shit. Yeah. Oh, that's another bit of feedback. Make a trophy and send it to us via fucking Ozpost. Do it.
But what if I make a team and then my team just beats your team in 25 minutes?
Do it.
Think about the content I would make off of that. It'll be so
Our
fun.
rivalry, oh boy.
Oh boy.
Well, I mean, look, if Adam continues on the way that he's going, it will be a very interesting matchup and something to tune in for. So,
Would it be? Because it looks like
I'm
he's running it
excited.
down. Anyway, you've been
Well-
watching Envy's channel. Peace out.